I call on the member Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and congratulations to you in your new role as Deputy Speaker. Mr Speaker, I just want to acknowledge also my electorate chair, Jenny Giorgetti, and my campaign chair, Roger Burrell. And I want to acknowledge our people, and I want to acknowledge our people in Rodney who turned out and participated in our democracy this year, regardless of what candidate or party they supported. At least they turned out and they used their vote. I also want to acknowledge our outgoing Police Area Commander, Scott Webb, who has just been promoted and taken up the Area Commander's role in West Auckland. And I want to acknowledge him and the great work that he's done in building relationships amongst our community groups, iwi. And the police take a much greater role now in these types of relationship building and working through the community, and he's done a very good job of that. I want to acknowledge the incoming Area Commander, Inspector Mark Fergus, who's a very good local surf lifesaver, and I'm sure that he's also going to make a very good Police Area Commander. I want to acknowledge our volunteer firefighters. I was at their awards ceremony last week, and especially I want to mention two of our officers, Bevan Shaw and Keith Macareth, who received their 25-year Gold Star for service. And especially in relation to Keith, because his father, Frank Macareth, is our Chief Fire Officer, and his brother, Vaughan, is the Assistant Chief Fire Officer down in Takapuna for Waitemata. Between them, the three of them, so Frank and his two sons, they have a combined service to our volunteer fire service of 112.75 years. That's a pretty incredible milestone. I want to acknowledge my new colleagues, our new colleagues that have joined us this year, all 14 of them. I think there's 3 of them in the House, Todd, Parmjeet and Nook. And actually just looking at Todd, Parmjeet and Nook, it just goes to show you that the variety and the depth that we actually have, that the National Caucus has. And I think we're doing a very good job as a party in rejuvenating, without a doubt. I want to acknowledge the important projects for me this year in my own electorate. The Pūhoi to Wellsford was a very important one. I notice I'm sharing the split call today with my colleague Mike Sabin. I want to acknowledge him because I know that we both worked very hard to make sure that we remain focused on delivering the Pūhoi to Wellsford, and I'm very proud that our government, the Prime Minister and our executive has continued to have a focus and a commitment to that investment, and it's going to be a significant investment for Rodney. The next one for me, the next big infrastructure project for me is Penlink, which is further south in the electorate. It's no less important, and we're experiencing some pretty significant growth. We're expected to absorb a lot of the growth in the future in Auckland. At the moment, currently, I think about 33% of the residential consents that are lodged with council are for the southern part of my electorate, Silverdale, Orewa and Whangaparoa. I want to acknowledge, I'm very thankful to be a member of the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee this year, and I want to acknowledge David Shearer, Phil Goff, Fletcher Tabato and Kennedy Graham, and my own colleagues who are going to be sitting on that committee. I anticipate that we're going to have some interesting work to do this term. I want to acknowledge some comments that Mr Shearer was making and acknowledge his background, because we all know that he's got a lot of experience, and he's very highly regarded and respected in terms of delivering humanitarian aid and assistance around the world, especially in hotspots like Iraq, Somalia and others. And he said in his speech tonight, and he referred to the situation with ISIS, and he said it's a very complicated situation. I entirely agree with him. The point that I wanted to make, and I'm conscious that I've got a split call, I haven't got much time, is as a country, we watched Lucy Knight. Now, Lucy Knight was the 43-year-old mother in Northcote that saw a elderly lady being attacked and having an offender attempting to take a bag off her. And she didn't just stand by and did nothing. She didn't put her head down and walk away and say, that's none of my business. She intervened, she tried to help, and as a result, she was injured, an injury that she's now recovering from. And I think as a nation, we're going to have to ask ourselves if we want to be a country that puts our head down and ignores what's happening in the rest of the world. Our future is critically is aligned with us being able to trade, and we do trade with the rest of the world, And I think when there's problems, as a country, we should be focused and looking at what we can do and what contribution we can make. So again, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'll hand over to my colleague. Thank you.
I call the honourable member Mike Sabin.
Thank